Greetings from the Iowa Beef Center, and welcome to this episode of the Iowa Beef Collective. I'm your host, Patrick Wall, and joined with me today is the president of the Iowa Cattlemen's Association, Mr. Bryan Whaley. Thanks for being here, and we're gonna talk about some current topics. And, you know, there's obviously some production that goes along with these podcasts, but we're going to flip this one around as quick as we can because the headline might be different by the time we air it if we don't. I'll turn it over to you. And obviously, beef prices have been in the news for a multitude of reasons. Sometimes it's because someone said something that maybe we didn't like. Sometimes it's because our cow numbers are so low and beef demand is high. Both of those problems are good and bad. So, you know, talk about what's your phone been ringing about here in the last couple of weeks. We all know the answer, but I want to hear it from your perspective on, you know, how fun has it been to be the president of ICA recently?
It's been interesting. Let's just say that, to say the least. You know, our November magazine just came out and I went back and read what I wrote, and I wrote that article before all of this happened. But it was funny. The article talked about the words that were being used in the cattle industry, you know, fascinating, you know, unprecedented, those types of things. Well, I think we've continued to move forward at unprecedented times in multiple different ways right now. And it definitely has been interesting. So if you read that article, it was written before all of these things have happened in the last 2 or 3 weeks. And I'll follow it up in December with something a little more interesting. But yeah, it has been, you know, there's been no lack of news. The phone has rang. It has been interesting. It's been 7 days a week lately on what's been happening and the news feeds that come, and we have been in communication with each other a lot in the office with our exec board on how do we react to some of the things that are out there right now, and how do we number one, let our members know that we're paying attention and that we're watching what's happening and we are engaged with what's happening. And the number one thing that our producers are really challenged by right now is this whole market volatility, and just, you know, the how do we make decisions, the risk that's involved within our industry right now in terms of the dollars that are being handled, and whether you're buying feeder cattle right now at the price they are, you know, and then you keep them in and you feed them and then you're selling them, and then what's that risk management strategy right now is really a challenge.
And I think, for lack of a better way to put this, you mentioned how do we react. I think it would have been far better for the industry to not react a little bit to what happened, you know, in the news media, because they're looking for headlines, and by God, they found them. And they knew that the ranching and feeding and cattle industry was pretty upset, and they used that essentially against us. So I think a lot of, you know, what has occurred, you know, we lost 25, 30 cents on the board quickly. We slowly climbed back, but we're not to where we were. So words have meaning. You know, those kinds of things do matter. And I think we hopefully learned a bit of a lesson about some overreaction might not be good either. We need to defend ourselves and not look like we're ignorant to what's going on. But some overreaction in the media is not always in our favor. Visit with the audience about what the reaction was from the news media, because I know you had some interviews with some regular large media outlets talk about their approach. You know, we were talking before we went on camera here. It was like a 30-second segment. They interviewed for 40 minutes. We all know they were looking for you maybe to say something that you would have regretted later. So talk about your interaction with what we call the mainstream media, if you will, and what were they wanting to know?
And actually that's really was a first for me to do something at that level. So it was a really big learning experience. And I have to thank Eric Osmussen, our director of communications, and Kelly Wicks. They did a great job of prepping me. We knew where we were going to go and how are we going to message things, no matter the angles they were going to come at you
maybe
with.
A mock interview or two.
Yeah. And so I appreciate all those things that did to help. But it's really interesting to me to see the angles that they take. And words do mean something, but they can mean different things when you're put them in a different sentence or a different context and try to manipulate the conversation to go an angle. I mean, they were in one case particular, and I won't mention who, but it was really, I felt like trying to get me to say something in a way that would be negative to an individual and statements that were being made. And that was not our stance. That was not our ICA stance. And so I think when you get in those situations, you've got to hold firm to what your values are, what your policies are, and why you're providing comments the way you were. And for us, it was really about the information that was being put out was really not 100% factual. And our producer just felt like we wanted to make a statement on how we were operating and what the real answers to those questions were. I appreciate the media. You've got to appreciate them. They've got a tough job to do. And I did appreciate from the standpoint of that they allowed me to tell the story of a cattle producer or rancher here in Iowa, because we have a unique story to tell with our diversified operations.
Yes.
And I wish they would have shown a little bit more of that in some of the interviews, but in others, we were able to highlight that, and I appreciated that.
And I think without question, the only person that has it harder than you maybe in the last 2 weeks is Secretary Rollins.
Yeah.
I bet she would have traded places with you.
I'm not sure I would have wanted to trade with her.
She's probably done as many interviews as you have and tenfold in the last 2 weeks. And from my perspective, I think she's done a great job of trying to navigate what happened, what was said, what actually was happening. And, we're still dealing with the ramifications of a statement 2 weeks ago. And, we're taping this in mid-November. In a week, what we might say could be irrelevant.
Right.
They might be onto a new headline and the beef industry is no longer in the crosshairs and it's all good.
Yeah.
And that's just the media, the way they operate now. Viewership and clicks, and that's everything. Unless somebody watches it, the advertisers that push that station don't get anything out of it. Right. So I think we have to be wary as an industry, and I think we are. We can't always control what politicians and industry folks might say. At the end of the day, people still like to eat beef. What we're producing is pretty darn good. So that hasn't changed. Right. Let's maybe flip focus to something happier. Anything going well at ICA?
Yeah, no, everything's really good. I mean, there's just a lot happening right now in our industry, and it's not just talking about current headlines. I mean, there is a lot of things that are changing within the cattle industry. Maybe not good, but I mean, we're still not New World screwworm things. How do we make sure that we're being prepared for foreign animal disease? We're working with idols on doing a practice run on some of those things. So there's other things that are happening. The innovation that's out there right now, we're really trying to do a good job right now of meeting with some industry folks. I had the opportunity this summer. I made about 12 or so visits across the state this summer and took a whole day, and we set up meetings with producers and boards and industry and got to sit down and learn what they're working on. And so there's a lot of good things coming in the cattle industry, and it's a good time to be a cattleman.
You mentioned technology, and it takes money to buy technology, but when you're selling feeder cattle for what we're selling them for, some of those technologies we probably need to look at. And I'll just give you an example: virtual fence. Yeah. Whoever would have thought? I mean, we keep our dog in our yard with virtual fence, but who thought it would work for cows? And it does. Labor is probably, if you asked a bunch of producers that are scaled to a point where it's more than one person can take care of, labor's their number one issue. A lot of cases. We got ear tags now that can tell you when your cow's in heat, can tell you when she's calving, can tell you even where she's at on the farm. Is she on the right side of the fence? All those things are technologies that the industry is addressing to try to tackle the labor shortage. So cool stuff. The last 2 weeks, it was very ironic to me that, producers that are sitting on a fatter check than they ever had for their springborn calves in the fall, man, they were angry. And our memories are pretty short. But I guess, from ICA's perspective, what do we see cow numbers doing in Iowa? Because I might be alone on this island. That's why I'm asking this question. I don't think expansion drastically is going to happen here. I think expansion is going to happen west of here if and when it rains. So what does ICA see from an expansion standpoint? Are you getting any indications of more heifers retained? Are we getting a little more creative putting cows in a building? We did that years ago, and buildings did nothing but get more expensive from there forward. So what are you seeing from the association's perspective on cow numbers here locally?
I think it varies by operation, and I think we've got a chance right now within our industry here in Iowa to potentially utilize Iowa to help grow the cow herd. How we do that is going to be maybe a little challenging when we don't have the grazing opportunities. Mm-hmm. There's some land out there that we would like to potentially use as grazing opportunities, and we are working on that as well. But I think really it's an operational thing. I have heard of some individuals that are going back and looking at trying to put some cows under roof again, mm-hmm. And that's happening. I think I know that there's some individuals though that they've got some older cows. They're maybe keeping a lot of heifers this year, but they're also selling a lot of older cows, and so that's not going to help with our numbers long term.
Capturing the cull cow market.
Capturing the cull cow market right now. That leads into a whole nother topic, and we've got some that are actually getting out now and at the high of a cull cow market, saying, hey, I've done my work, or selling them as breads, right? I do think that there are, I will say, some smaller producers, those in Iowa, the average herd size is about 40, 50, right, in terms of what we have. I think they are maybe keeping a few heifers if they have the land that they can graze on right now, because they're seeing that there's profit there.
Yep.
But if they don't, they're not.
And the hard math from the extension guy's standpoint, you got to take a crop acre out of production and put it into forage. That's easy for me to say, and I can show them all the math I want. That's hard. And if it doesn't rain, it's really dumb.
Yeah.
So,
it is.
So it's not just as simple as let's take marginal acres and put them back in grass, or put them in hay, or put them in a summer annual or forage. All that stuff's easy for me to say. And we can find research where it works.
Right.
It's hard to insure it. It's hard to fence it, especially if it didn't have fence to begin with. And, hay equipment, getting a weather window when you're already short on time, it's a lot harder than it sounds. So I think we're going to have to get creative. Mm-hmm. And some, particularly the, young producer, strong back type, I'm willing to put in the work and pound some fence posts and that type thing. I think they'll be rewarded. And if you look at this thing right now from a business standpoint, if I'm 65, 70, 75 still doing this, when am I not going to get out? If you look at it from a business standpoint, buy low, sell high, you can't blame them for wanting to capture kind of their life's work, if you will, and sell them for as much as we possibly can. And we know that's happening. And I think the challenge, and you can talk about this from an ICA standpoint on the programs that you folks are trying to put together. And we mentioned Next Gen earlier, and that's part of it. But in 2014, interest was cheap. Mm-hmm. And when cattle skyrocketed and no one saw an end in sight, it was going to be good forever, right? A person that was 22, 25, 30 could go to the bank, sign a loan for cows, go buy them, and the bank would sign the note. And that's not happening at the same clip now. Interest rates are different. Mm-hmm. And I'll say it this way, the banks are smarter. They don't have any history, if you will, that this thing's going to stay good. Because we thought it was going to stay good last time and it didn't. So talk about the programs from a young producer standpoint that ICA is working on.
Yeah, so our next gen program we've talked about and trying to set them up and provide them information with and we'd mentioned the convention earlier. There's a segment there. One of the new things that we're doing and is some video taped sessions with industry folks. And so we've got a 3-part session that's going to come out on succession planning. Probably I'm hoping it's out in here later November. But we're working on that, and then we're going to continue moving forward around that topic. I think the more we can provide opportunities to have those connections between some of our producers and get them involved in the industry. Our producers are really connected, and they may not be able to take an operation over for somebody else, but it may be able to buy in or do a slow buy-in or something with another individual that they know. And so I think that's something that we're trying to connect with. We partner with Coalition Support Iowa Farmers on their legacy program that they've got going on. We've worked with them on that. So those are some of the things that we're working on right now to help promote that. And then obviously we're always looking at ways from a policy standpoint that we can help with our beginning farmers also. And if we can provide opportunities for maybe open up a little CRP and do some grazing on that, that would maybe open up some areas that guys could put some cows on and specifically beginning farmers as well.
I'll be honest, probably the most shocking thing with my job currently in extension, my phone has rang more since prices have reached where we're at with producers wanting to transition and give the operation, I shouldn't say give's the wrong term, transition the operation to the next generation. And I have done enough of them that the question I'm asking them now, I didn't ask them initially. It's, what are you willing to give up to get the next generation in? Because price-wise, it is the dumbest time for a producer to start. You don't get in when it's high. You get in when it's low. So if you are a producer that's retirement age and you're wanting to transition, before you go into that meeting to bring the granddaughter and her husband in or your nephew or son or whatever it is, have a hard talk with yourself on what are you willing to put forward in the transition. You guys are tackling it. I know Corn Belt Cow-Calf Conference, we've got a segment on it as well. For whatever reason, well, we know the reason, the retired folks are like, man, look at prices. I want to get out now. It's really good. I've got this next generation that wants to come in. How can we make that happen? Man, that's a risky thing on one side of the ledger and not on the other. So those are going to be some tough conversations, and I'm glad ICA's taken a role on it as well. But all said, we're in the glory years of raising cattle. So I would say to the generation that has wanting to move on and get out, you're at the pinnacle, right? So you probably are better positioned to afford transitioning now than maybe you ever have been from a cattle standpoint. So, like I said, tough conversations, but we'll keep having them. We have to. The generation, the average producer's not getting younger. So those will continue to happen, and they're tough conversations, but probably the most rewarding part of my job is to get a transition set up and have the next generation excited about coming into the business in a way that financially they can sustain. So thank you for what you do at ICA. If you raise cattle and you're not a member, I would strongly encourage you to consider that $125 is one bid this year on your feeders. Maybe not
That's
even.
a good way to look at it.
You're not out $125 just to say that you get a license plate or a sticker in your window. It's a heck of a lot more than that. Appreciate what you've done for the industry. I know the last 2 weeks have probably not been the most fun part of your job.
It's been fun.
Yeah. And I would agree with that. It's better, there's a quote that I'll never forget from a producer here in Iowa who I won't name, but there's no such thing as bad advertising. Just spell my name right.
Yeah.
I think we could argue a little bit with that recently, but beef's in the news, and if beef prices sucked, it probably wouldn't be.
Right.
Because consumers wouldn't think it'd be a big issue.
Yeah.
And the news wouldn't have anything to talk about. So
that's exactly right.
It could get worse.
Yeah.
It can always
thank you
get
for
worse.
having me on, Patrick.
Yes,
I appreciate it. And just to put a plug in here, we do have a strong partnership with the Iowa Beef Center and the work very extensively with your colleagues as well across the state. So thank you for that as well.
Yep. We were excited that they grabbed one of our own. As most of you probably know, Bryan came from the extension world into the ICA role, and we're excited to have you there. So appreciate you joining us. And to you there at home, appreciate you joining in again on the Iowa Beef Collective. As always, subscribe, find us on Facebook at the Iowa Beef Center. Find us on all the social channels, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, you name it, we'll be there. Thanks for joining us again.
This institution is an equal opportunity provider. For the full non-discrimination statement or accommodation inquiries, go to www.extension.iastate.edu/legal.